Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Mitchell Ringos. Officials with Norwest Community Health Centers have issued a substance warning for street drug users in Thunder Bay. Norwest has special equipment at its Safe Supply program that can't analyze drug samples to see what they truly contain. Norwest Director of Health Services Jennifer Lawrence says what they found last month was startling, especially with samples of what users thought was cocaine.
We definitely saw a very concerning trend in January where the majority of the cocaine samples checked didn't contain any cocaine at all. In fact, over 10% of those samples contained fentanyl or fentanyl only, and 55% of what was thought to be cocaine that was checked that didn't contain any cocaine. Many of those samples had fentanyl in them.
The substance warning was issued this week on Norwest social media pages. Only 15% of all drugs tested and just 11% of supposed cocaine samples were found to be the actual drug people thought they were buying. Lawrence says this is especially concerning for recreational cocaine users who wouldn't normally have naloxone on hand to prevent an overdose because naloxone only works with opioids. She's recommending people start carrying naloxone and also use the Lifeguard app when they ingest any type of street drugs.
So I think it's really important to remember that the drug supply is very toxic and very variable, that you might not be getting what you think you've purchased, and that in fact you may need to be prepared to respond to an opioid overdose even if you don't think you've purchased an opioid. So making sure that you're not using alone, that you've got naloxone, you know what to do with naloxone, and that so do the people that you're with. And if someone is using alone, to really use that Lifeguard app and set the timer so that some EMS can respond if they do overdose.
As the war in Ukraine enters its second year, President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's open to a peace plan proposed by China, but only if Russian troops pull out of all occupied Ukrainian territories. Kevin Gallagher has more.
Ukrainian forces fire Soviet-era rockets at the Russian front line near Kharkiv. Every advance is brutal and slow, as fighters hope superior Western weapons arrive soon. Positions change every day, this Ukrainian soldier says, but I have no worries. I believe in our victory to the last. Some German-made Leopard tanks have arrived from Poland. Canada recently doubled its commitment and will send 8 tanks.
We need to continue doing whatever is necessary to help Ukraine fight and win this war. They are fighting for their democracy, but they're also fighting for our democracy.
Russia's Wagner mercenary group claims to have captured a village just north of Bakhmut, a heavily damaged Ukrainian stronghold in the east. Today, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky told German leaders in a video address, if NATO continues to supply his forces, Ukraine can put an end to Russian aggression this year. Though protesters in Berlin demanded their government stop sending weapons to Ukraine in an effort to encourage peace talks. Even China has also proposed a peace process, despite reports it may send lethal aid to Russia. Today, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz criticized Beijing's plan for not insisting Russian forces withdraw from Ukrainian territory. China and Russia also forced the G20 finance ministers to end their meeting in India without a consensus today, as the two countries refused to call the conflict in Ukraine a war. Kevin Gallagher, CTV News, Ottawa.
Provincial police seized more than 2 million contraband cigarettes after stopping a vehicle west of the city earlier this week. Police said officers at the Chappaqua detachment stopped a U-Haul van on Highway 17 around 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, which led to a commercial vehicle inspection. Police found the haul of cigarettes, which had an estimated street value of about $875,000. A 24-year-old from Scarborough faces charges of trafficking contraband, tobacco, and constructing an officer, along with 2 charges under the Tobacco Tax Act and several Highway Traffic Act offenses. Major fire at a seniors residence in Sioux Lookout earlier this month has highlighted problems in the long-term care system, according to local officials. Although the blaze was limited to one wing of the KDSB facility, nearly a third of the building's 37 residential units were destroyed. Lee Noonan has more.
Although the fire decimated 11 units at Patricia Plaza, everyone was safely evacuated, and some residents have even been able to move back into undamaged units towards the front of the building. Meanwhile, some are still waiting, and others have been placed in long-term care or are waiting in the hospital.
The lack of long-term care beds or access to long-term care, the lack of access to extended care beds in our communities also meant that we had seniors and elders in Patricia Plaza who really should be in long-term care.
Some of them maybe have been ready to go to long-term care if it were available, or some other care facility. And there's such a dearth of such services and facilities in Sioux Lookout. We need them desperately.
With Sioux Lookout's role as a service hub, Mayor Lawrence says the shortage of long-term beds affects the entire region.
We have 1/10 the provincial average of long-term care beds. We have 2/3 of a bed per 1,000 population versus a provincial average of 6 2/3 beds per 1,000 population. We absolutely need long-term care, which would have an impact not only on housing, but on our hospital, which is now our acute care bed facility is 50% alternative level care, which is people who need to go into long-term care. So that backup happens in the hallways of the hospitals and in people's homes and in people living in unsuitable conditions or living vulnerably alone in an apartment as a senior.
Wall says the incident has highlighted the need for more investments in long-term care and extended care in the north, and the need for communities to start talking about supports for aging in place.
You know, that this whole situation is really pulled back the cover on, I think, important topics that communities, especially communities that want to be inclusive, and a community that is going to be kind to its elders and seniors, need to start asking, okay, do we need to have other supports in a community?
There are currently only 20 long-term care beds at Sioux Lookout's Minayawan Health Center. A 76-bed extension was first approved under the previous Liberal government, but construction has yet to begin. A request for comment was sent to the Ministry of Long-Term Care, who did not reply before deadline. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Summit Church was packed for Grace Place's 9th annual Coldest Night of the Year Walk fundraiser. The walk is not only a fundraiser for the organization, but it also gets attendees to realize what the homeless population has to deal with daily. Just over 300 walkers came out to walk 2 or 5 kilometers to help raise money for a good cause. The fundraising goal for the 9th walk was $90,000, and at the start of the event, $81,000 was already raised. The event is Grace Place's largest fundraiser, and this year's funds will be going towards operating expenses, including utility and heating bills. Event director Gary Maximchuk says they're overwhelmed by the support from the walkers, the 61 volunteers, and the community.
It's wonderful to see all the people that have gone on board. This year our lead sponsor was Per Hole Construction, and this is the second year they've been participating. We have a number of businesses that are supporting us, but it's great to see these walkers, 300 plus walkers, raising funds for Grace Place. So it's really nice to see.
If all goes according to plan, the Township of Nipigon will have a new strategic plan within the year. Council voted this week to move ahead with the first steps in the process. Before beginning consultation for the new strategic plan, the township will submit a funding application to FedNor. Mayor Suzanne Kuko says that more than a decade since the last plan was created, she is optimistic the application will be successful. Kuko says economic and community development will be her key priorities.
Yeah, it's super exciting. We want to really get to work on a roadmap for our town and have some ideas from townspeople as well to find out, what their interests are and what their priorities might be, and match them up together with ours, and it's gonna be great.
Kuko says she appreciates that council and staff are supportive of the initiative. The strategic plan is a priority for the mayor, who made it a major pillar of her campaign platform, promising to bring change to Nipigon Town Hall. Hundreds of people came out to the Sealy Heritage Building for the last day of Science North's annual Science Festival. Today's event was the much-anticipated Science Carnival, which gave children, teens, and adults the opportunity to celebrate science in a fun and interactive way. From science experiments to live bugs, there was lots to see and do at this year's carnival. Along with Science North, over 22 businesses and organizations came out to show attendees the science of what they do, including Fort William Historical Park, Eco Superior, and the Thunder Bay Public Library. The hands-on activities were enjoyed by people of all ages, and Thunder Bay Science North Senior Outreach Manager Caitlin Richard says they love bringing the community together with science.
This is the kind of final event of our entire week of Science Festival activities, and for us, this is kind of the big celebration. We're bringing in community to show off what they do, but also get the community members to learn about what we do here in Thunder Bay, because there's lots of really awesome science, and you never know, we might spark the next scientist that visit here.
More information about Science North upcoming event can be found on their website. And after the break, we'll be joined by sports anchor Kurt Black. He'll have all the details on the sports for today, including an update on Game 2 of the Thunderwolves.